Okay, so are you ready to like dive into something kind of crazy? Today we're looking at advanced conversational hypnosis.
Okay.
And I gotta say, the idea of ditching the whole, like you are getting sleepy thing
Right? Yeah.
for something way more complex and interesting,
Yeah.
that really gets me interested. So,
It's interesting because ACH is really like, I think, reframing how we even think about therapy.
okay.
It's not so much about the therapist sort of leading the way,
Yeah.
but more about giving the client the power to really explore their own mind.
So it's less like you're, drawing a map and saying this is the route,
Right.
and more like you're helping them navigate their own internal world.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is that the map is like being drawn as you go
I like that.
with ACH because it really emphasizes understanding how the client sees the problem.
Okay.
Not how, we might perceive it as therapists, but their unique perspective.
Yeah.
And part of that is like identifying those deep-seated beliefs, those knots in their thinking
Ooh, I like that.
that might be holding them back.
The knots. Okay, because that makes me think of like, when you have all those wires tangled up behind your TV,
Right.
you can't just like yank one and hope for the best.
Exactly.
You have to really like slowly try to untangle them and figure out where the problem is.
It's true.
And it feels like ACH is kind of taking that approach, but with our minds.
Yeah. And that's where patience comes in
Okay.
and really meeting the client where they are at.
Okay.
Because, one of the first principles of ACH is letting go of any preconceived ideas about what hypnosis should look like.
So no more like pocket watches swinging?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not about putting someone in a trance. It's about using conversation
Okay.
to help them access their own unconscious mind naturally.
So it's more about creating the right conditions
Yeah.
for them to then tap into what's already there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this training that you did mentioned something called the investigation phase.
Yeah.
What happens in that phase?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's about asking those thought-provoking questions.
Okay.
The ones that make you really stop and think, wow, I've never thought about it that way before.
So not just like, tell me about your childhood kind of question.
Right.
It's deeper than that.
It's more about challenging those assumptions,
Okay.
uncovering the blind spots the client may not even know they have through specific questions.
So are there aha moments that come out during this?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so how do you guide the conversation without kind of like imposing your own solutions on the person? Because ultimately it's about them finding their own answers, right?
You're right. And that's the real beauty of ACH,
Okay.
is that you're not there to provide the answers, but to be a facilitator
Okay.
in their journey of self-discovery.
So helping them untangle those knots and navigate their way out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm hooked now. So then what happens?
So this is where unconscious moments come into play.
Okay.
As you delve deeper with these questions,
Right.
you start to notice these subtle shifts and signals from the client.
Okay.
Maybe it's a change in their posture,
Yeah.
a fleeting expression, or even a physical sensation.
You mean like really subtle things like if they get butterflies in their stomach or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about paying close attention to those seemingly insignificant details,
Wow.
both verbal and nonverbal,
Okay.
because they can tell us what's going on beneath the surface.
So they're important,
Yeah.
even though they seem small.
And this is where the therapist's expertise really comes in,
Okay.
because it's their job to guide the client's attention towards these moments,
Okay.
to help them unpack and process the emotions or memories that might be coming up.
It's like these little breadcrumbs that are telling us where to go next.
It is.
And as the therapist, you're helping them follow them.
That's a great way to put it,
Right.
because these small details are often overlooked in traditional therapy.
Really?
But in ACH, they're seen as valuable pieces of the puzzle.
Okay.
They're glimpses into the unconscious mind.
So instead of dismissing a sigh or a change in posture, you're saying in ACH that's actually really important?
Yes,
Yeah.
because those seemingly insignificant details often hold the key to unlocking profound change.
Oh, wow. Okay, my mind is already blown and we're just getting started here.
Yeah.
We've talked about getting rid of the scripts, using the power of conversation,
Right.
and now paying attention to these little unconscious moments.
That's a whole new way of thinking.
It's like we're learning a whole new language.
It is. And just like any new language, it takes practice and patience
For sure.
and a willingness to really listen.
Yeah. Okay, I am so ready to keep going with this.
Yeah.
These unconscious moments start popping up. Now what?
That is where the real magic of trance comes into play.
Okay.
And we'll dive into that right after this.
Okay.
So these unconscious moments we were talking about before the break,
Right.
They become even more important when we start thinking about trance and ACH.
Okay, now we're getting to the trance stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know about the trance.
Right.
But I thought we said, like, no more swinging pocket watches.
Right.
So how does trance even fit into this more conversational approach?
The cool thing is with ACH, you don't need any of those theatrics.
Uh,
It's more about as you guide the client's attention inward to those unconscious moments as they come up.
yeah.
You're actually kind of easing them into this state of, heightened receptivity,
Okay.
what we traditionally call trance.
So you're saying the trance just kind of, like, happens?
Yeah, it happens naturally.
Okay.
It's a byproduct of this really deep exploration
Yeah.
and this focused attention.
So it's not about making someone go into a trance. It's about creating the right environment.
Creating the right conditions, exactly.
Okay.
It's more like, if you want a flower to bloom,
Right.
you wouldn't, pull on the petals.
Yeah.
You give it sunlight,
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
and the right nutrients.
Okay.
And then it would naturally blossom.
I like that. Okay, so we're not forcing anything.
Exactly.
We're just creating this safe space.
Yeah, a fertile space.
Yeah.
For their unconscious to kind of come forward.
Okay, that makes sense. So then how do we know?
Right.
How do we know when a client has actually entered that state?
Good question.
Yeah.
You might see it in their eyes.
Oh, really?
They might soften a little. Their breathing might change.
Okay.
Maybe they get really still in their posture.
Wow.
But often, the biggest clue is in their language.
Oh,
You might notice that they start to speak more metaphorically,
okay.
or you'll hear certain themes or symbols popping up in their stories.
So it's almost like their unconscious mind is starting to use a different language.
Yeah, it's like a secret language.
Wow. Okay. And this training video talks about how this trance state can lead to all these like really powerful symbols and metaphors.
That's true,
Yeah.
because it's like a window into their inner world.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Sure.
How do those symbols and metaphors actually help us help them make changes?
Because sometimes those unconscious moments we talked about before,
Yeah.
they show up as these symbols,
Okay.
like a visual representation of their problem or even a potential solution.
So give me an example, like if someone's feeling trapped in a relationship,
Okay, yeah.
what kind of symbols might we see?
They might unconsciously touch their ring finger.
Really?
Yeah. Or they might get this image of being behind bars.
Wow.
Or maybe they'll describe a dream where they're trying to climb a mountain,
Okay.
but they keep falling backwards.
Oh, I see. So it's all about like
Yeah.
trying to get these clues
Exactly.
from what they're saying.
But from what their body's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But then how do we know like
Right.
what those symbols mean? Because are we not like putting our own interpretation on things then?
That's a really important point.
Okay.
And with ACH, it's not about us as therapists saying, this is what this means.
Yeah.
It's about guiding them
Okay.
to find their own meaning.
So more like asking, what does this mean to you? What does this
Okay.
make you think of?
Because they're the expert on their experience.
That's true.
Right.
We all see the world differently.
Right.
Okay. So let's say we have this breakthrough, this new insight comes up.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? How do we make sure that actually leads to real change in their life?
That's a great question, because having an insight is one thing,
Okay.
but then actually living it,
Right.
that's where the magic really happens.
So how do we bridge that gap?
So there's this crucial phase in ACH called testing the new resource.
Testing the new resource. I like that.
Yeah, because it's about getting practical.
Okay.
We want to make sure these insights actually work in real life.
Okay. Give me an example. How do you test an insight?
Let's say someone's really scared of public speaking,
Okay.
and they have this breakthrough moment where they feel this wave of confidence.
Uh-huh.
So as the therapist, you might say something like, imagine yourself giving that presentation,
Yeah.
but feeling this confidence you have right now.
Gotcha.
What do you see? How do you feel? What's different?
So they're basically like practicing in their mind,
Exactly.
but from this new perspective.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. And what if when they do that,
Yeah.
they hit a wall, like those old patterns come back up?
That's a sign that we need to go a little deeper.
Okay.
We might need to explore what's causing that resistance.
So it's like we might have to keep going back and forth
Yeah, it's a process.
until they find what works for them.
That's right, because everyone's different.
This is fascinating to me.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about unconscious moments, the magic of trance,
Right.
and this idea of testing the new resource.
Yeah,
This is a lot to take in.
it is a lot.
This advanced conversational hypnosis is amazing.
It really is. And
Yeah.
what's so great about it is that it puts the client in the driver's seat.
Oh, I like that.
They're the ones with the power to heal and
Yeah.
change their lives.
Yes.
We're just there to support them and guide them.
Okay, so for our listener who's out there thinking, this is amazing, I want to learn more, what's like the one thing you want them to remember from all of this?
I would say remember that the power to change, to heal, to transform your life, it's already inside you.
Yeah.
ACH just provides the tools and the guidance to unlock that potential.
I love that.
Through conversation
and
deep listening.
That sounds great. Yeah. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking more about this very soon.
I think so.
This all makes it seem so much more collaborative than other kinds of therapy.
Definitely.
Like you're really working together.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes it so powerful, I think.
Okay.
Because it's not about you as the therapist having all the answers.
Right. Yeah.
It's about creating this space where you're both equals.
Yeah.
You both bring something important to the table.
Like you were saying before, it's more about being a guide.
Exactly.
Not the one with the map telling them exactly where to go.
And a good guide knows when to offer support.
Yeah.
And when to encourage the client to explore on their own.
It makes me think, though, if it's all about conversation and like really paying attention, that must be really hard for the therapist to do well.
It does take a lot of skill.
Okay.
It's not something you can just learn overnight.
What kind of skills are we talking about?
You need to be a really good listener.
Okay.
You have to pick up on those subtle cues. And you need to create this space where they feel safe.
Yeah.
Safe enough to explore even the parts that are scary.
So it's a balance.
It is.
Like knowing when to push a little and when to just listen.
That's like a dance almost.
Makes me think of like those nature photographers who wait for hours to get that perfect shot.
I see what you mean.
They're not chasing the animals around. We're just being patient and present.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You need that same kind of presence.
And that brings us back to this idea that ultimately the client already has the power to change within them.
They do.
ECH just helps them access it.
Exactly. We're just facilitating the process.
It reminds me of that saying.
What's that?
The answers you seek are already within you.
I love that.
You just have to listen.
It's true. So often we look outside ourselves for answers.
Right.
When really everything we need is already here.
It's like we have this inner compass.
Yeah.
But we've forgotten how to use it.
And ACH reminds us.
Yes.
It helps us to trust that inner wisdom again.
This has been so eye-opening.
I'm glad to hear that.
I feel like this whole deep dive has given me a new way of looking at things.
That's what it's all about.
So for everyone listening who is like, wow, I need to know more.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
I would say keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions. And keep listening to that wise voice inside.
I love it. So much to think about. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep those aha moments coming.